Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the final round in stage 1 of the FIA Nations Championship. So this was an extremely competitive lobby, as you can see going through the lobby names in this race. The qualifying was insanely close. This was race number 2. Race number 1 we managed the 158.5. It wasn't a perfect lap, we could have done a lot better. This race we managed the 158.4. Now we definitely had 2 or 3 more attempts left in us. We should have really been getting 38.1s at least, but it wasn't a bad lap by any means. But just to show you how competitive it was, P8 Jonas there, between P8 Jonas in P8 and all the way through the grid there with Tijni, TG10K, I think P11, let's have a little look at it was PR1 Jimbra, very fast drivers all the way through this grid. An extremely competitive lobby. Williams Giorgio in P12 and myself in P13, as you can see there with the livery. Myself on a 58.4, pretty much a 58.4 flat, and Devil in P14. There was just over a tenth separating from P8 to P14. Extremely close lobby all the way through the grid. Some of the names you see behind me, some of the fastest drivers in the game. Matthew, a very fast driver. Williams Giorgio just qualifying just ahead of myself. It shows you how competitive this lobby was. And TX3 Adam obviously didn't hook his lap up. Must have been an error on his lap going for the 1 lap strategy like a lot of people were. Obviously had some sort of error, but it shows you that a lot of people were going for this strategy of just doing 1 lap and burning fuel, and for nearly every driver to be putting a reasonable lap in shows you the quality all the way through the field in this race. So the main aim of this one was, we weren't going to do the last race of the day. I just wanted to get a result in this, aiming really for a top 10 result. That would be anything in the top 10. I was going to be pretty much happy because I wasn't going to do the final race. So starting from P13, as long as we make up some places, it's very likely that some people are going to make errors. This race was 9 laps long. Normally it's a 10 lap race. However, they done something with obviously the racing mediums and the tyre wear was quite extreme. So it was a no stop strategy, but you really had to look after your tyres. So there was a strategy you could probably just go for it and really push and then suffer with the tyres at the end, or you could do a pit stop strategy, which actually works out not too much difference if you had 100% clear track. However, with the fact that the majority of people are going to no stop this race, the 1 stop was not really a viable option in my opinion, so I wasn't going to go for that. As you see on lap 1, trying to look after the main part of the car that I was looking after was the rear tyres. So we had the brake bias all the way to the front, -5 towards the front, completely front bias on the car. Now obviously that is going to put a lot of wear on the front tyres during the braking. However, the Porsche is extremely strong on the front tyres anyway, so it's got a lot of front end grip. The place where it does lose a little bit of traction is on the rear. So I wanted to make sure that I kept the rear tyres as strong as possible all the way through this race. Obviously with it being a no-stop strategy, the tyres were going to be important on the end. So we're not going to push it too hard. You can see during the opening 3 laps, I'm not going to drive too aggressive. You can see Giorgio pulling a little bit ahead of me. I think he just had more race pace than I did. Probably getting held up a little bit by P11 there. But one thing you will be able to notice on this race is just keep an eye on the track map in the top right hand corner with just how closely compact this field was. So normally you find that the field gets very spread out and you get quite a reasonable field spread, but just look how competitive this was all the way through this race. It really was insane, that the quality of driving that was on show. Not too many mistakes during the race, and it was really enjoyable to be involved with. I don't mind. Obviously I'm not putting as much hours into practice as I probably would like to. I'm just trying to have a lot of fun on this game now and enjoy the racing and the competitive side of this now. Fighting for P13 is no shame in this. In top split lobbies with the quality of drivers that were in here, the aim is just to see if we can make up a few positions. As long as we don't go backwards, it's a result. As we go through turn 1, and Giorgio getting very close to the outside curb there. One of the curbs that we do not want to get anywhere near at Suzuka. Suzuka's curbs are known for taking people out. They will just wipe you out the race within an instant, and that's one thing we did not want to do during the early stint, obviously with the grip on the tyres, because if you do slide the tyres with the extreme tyre ratio that they were running, any slide is emphasised, and it really does take a lot of life out of your tyres as we go through that long left-hand corner where you really want to get on the power nice and early, and working our way through to the 2 right-hand corners, trying to skim the apex as we go through, and just trying not to be too aggressive. You're going to see how smooth I'm trying to be. I'm trying not to slide the car. I'm trying to be progressive on the throttle. I'm trying not to be sliding it around when getting on the throttle. And we've got a bit of a gap to P14 BFR Devil, you can see just behind us. He's remaining around 7-8 tenths behind us, so we've got a comfortable gap there. He's basically just verging on the slipstream. He's getting in it every now and then, but he's not really in a position to make me drive defensive. So this is kind of an ideal situation for me at this stage of the race, because I'm not having to go offline. I'm not having to take unusual line through the corners, which would then mean I'm putting more steering input in certain parts of the track, and then having to get on the throttle, you know, slightly different and maybe more aggressively at other points. We're just keeping it nice and smooth and just trying to look after the tyres all the way through the race. So what you will also notice is, as we go throughout this race, is if you keep an eye on the tyre wear from the front to the rear wear, we're making sure that with that -5 ratio all the way to the front for the front bias, it's keeping them tyres really balanced. So that was my main aim, was to make sure that the tyre wear is equal from the front to the rear, to keep a car that is balanced and drivable and predictable. So although you're going to lose grip, the car will remain balanced all the way through the stint, and that's what I wanted to make sure I did, and that's why I picked the balance to go all the way to the front. Obviously for qualifying, I think we did our lap on, it was 0, I think. We used a 0 balance for qualifying and then went all the way to the front for the race, just to look after the rear tyres and maintain an equal spread with the tyre wear. So that was what we were planning to do, and that's how we were going about this race. As you see there, Williams Giorgio managing to put himself up into P11 just ahead of us, and again P12 looks like he's starting to lose a little bit of pace now. Maybe the tyre wear is kicking in for him. But like I say, this was one thing you had to be very careful was not to take too much life out the tyres during the first 2 laps when they had all that grip. I find that if you look after them and try and drive fairly cautious, you can see our first lap was a 59.6, I think it was. Obviously we did a 58.4 in qualifying. We've obviously had slightly less fuel, but we could get in the 58s with full fuel. So we're about 7-8 tenths off the pace we would probably be able to maximise at this. If we were properly driving aggressive 100%, we would probably be on a 59.0, 58.9, maybe something like, or 59.2, around that area. But we're concentrating on keeping that car around 59.6, and then it's going to drop down into the 2 minutes on this lap more than likely. The aim was to try and maintain it in them 2-minute lap time range for as long as possible, just keeping it smooth, not overdriving the car, not chasing the sectors, just trying to keep it nice and smooth. You can see at the moment I'm doing a really good job. The car is not sliding around, it's not drifting through the corners, the rear's looking really stable, and that's what I wanted. The good thing again for ourselves was we wasn't in the slipstream with the car in front, so we're not getting any of that dirty air and loss of downforce, which kind of takes a bit of your tyre life out as we go through the 130R, and just getting very close to that curb there, but not too far that we're going to run the risk of obviously spinning out, and that is obviously another curb which can actually take a lot of people out, because you just run a little bit wide, you're on full throttle, you're travelling at 145 miles per hour, etc., and it just takes you out, and it's a real disaster if that happens, because you're coming from such a high speed, it takes you a long time to get back on the track and get back going, and it also takes a lot of tyre wear out if you do spin it on that corner. But at this stage you can see P12 in front of us. We're not losing too much ground. We haven't gained a single position yet in this race. This really does show you the quality in these top splits, and if you look on that track map again, you can see that it's pretty much a train of cars all around about 1 second apart around that distance. You can see Devil behind me about a second behind, P12 in front of me about a second, then Giorgio about a second there, and it's just constant gaps of just around second because of the dirty air. Cars obviously picking up dirty air, losing grip, and it's just, that was pretty much a static way all the way to the front. I think at this stage of the race, Williams Adam in front in P1 was around 8 seconds ahead of us. So 13 cars covered by 8 seconds, pretty much all just outside the slipstream range of each other. There are obviously some cars that were battling up a bit further up that might have been a little bit closer, but it really shows you just how competitive and close these races are. You know, although these races are fairly short in terms of race distance compared to other games, we're coming to the end of lap 4 and the field spread is so close, the driving so consistent. No cars in front of me have made a mistake at this stage yet as we come through to towards the end of lap 4. So real consistent driving up ahead, and I was kind of hoping there'd be more mistakes made than this so we could get ourselves up through the field and try and make up some positions. But at this rate, it looks like it's very static, and it's just all about looking after them tyres and trying to maintain that tyre life for the last 2 laps. I knew that it's going to be really important. There's going to be opportunities towards the end because some drivers will be driving more aggressive than others and taking more tyre life out of their tyres. As you can see there, RC Meteor again making, I think he did that same mistake in the first race. He's lost control of his car and he's pretty much out of the race, as GTA T-GT also pitted there. I didn't actually notice that when we were live on the live stream, but he pitted at the end of lap 4, going for a very unusual strategy. I think that it was out of his, I don't think it was his choice, I think it was the stream's choice for him to pit there, and probably not the best decision in terms of his result, but he's just having fun, very much like what I think we're doing now. We're not going to worry too much about where we finish. We just want to have good solid races and enjoy the racing with the best drivers on the game, and it's a privilege to be in with these drivers, so we've got to just take advantage of being in with the best and try and see what sort of results we can get, as we made not the best first sector there. As you see Devil getting a little bit closer to the rear of our car. I think also with that RC Meteor spinning before the end of lap 4, I slightly missed the apex of the corner because I wasn't sure if RC Meteor's car was going to come back onto track and on-ghost, which is one thing that we all know happens on GT Sport quite a lot, and I was a little bit put off by that, but we managed to hold on to this P11 now, obviously with T-GT pitting and RC Meteor making a mistake. So the aim is to get in that top 10. We're only one position away from getting into that top 10 and being where we wanted to finish, really, as we go up the hill now into the long spoon corner that's going to approach up at the end of this straight. And you can see Devil again just about 7/10 behind again, can't really get closer. We've got P10 in front of us, maintaining a pretty similar gap. He gained a little bit of time on that chicane when RC Meteor went off, where I lost a little bit of time, but other than that it's fairly static. So the tyre wear seems to be coming to our favour now, where I'm not pushing too hard. Other drivers looks like they might have took a lot of life out of their tyres early on. You can see up ahead there's William Giorgio is all over the car in front of him. You can just see that on the replay camera. He is completely harassing the car in front as we go through the 130R again into the braking zone, trying to make sure we hook up the apex and get on the pound nice and early for the main straight to get as much speed down the straight as possible, because if Devil was got a good exit off there with the slipstream, it was possible to go for a move into turn 1. As you see there, I went defensive, going over to the right hand side to try and break any slipstream and then slowly bring the car back over, just so Devil doesn't get any slipstream advantage and then able to put me under more pressure into one of the braking zones. And now again, keeping it nice and smooth, gentle on the front. You can see now that the car's starting to look a little bit more twitchy. We're starting lap 6. If you have a little look at our delta, the lap times though, every lap so far, bar lap, the first lap after lap 1, has been in the 2 minutes. So we've been doing a really good job at looking after these tyres and making sure that they're maintaining good pace. I was actually really happy with that. That's probably the best I'd driven from the practice races that I'd done from the night before. We didn't do any time trialing until the race started, pretty much. I just went and did 2 practice races and that was it. We didn't really time trial it, so I think our qualifying pace wasn't as good as what it would be if I would have proper gone into the time trial and really been aggressive on that. I think that's where I normally improve my qualifying paces, when I do it on time trial, because obviously when you burn down the fuel, you'll get it fairly similar to the way the car behaves within time trials. But now again, you can see we're gaining on P10. This is where the tyres starting to come into my favour. You can see we're getting better traction out of some of the corners. That's because I've been looking after the rear tyres, and you can see behind me Devil's starting to not drop off massively, but he's not really putting me under much pressure. So I was able to get him pretty much out the slipstream again as we go through that left hand corner on the power nice and early. And again, looks like we're starting to get into the slipstream of P10, and we might be able to make a move to get ourselves into that top 10, which will be great in this race with such high competition all the way through the field as we go through the 130R. And P10 looks like he ran a little bit wide there, and he's gone onto the curb, he's spun the car, and look how much tyre life he's took out of them tyres there. You could see the smoke going everywhere, and we just get through the corner, try and keep it nice and smooth. And it also, you might have noticed in the bottom right corner as we went through there, Devil completely missed his braking. And we're going to fast forward now, while we've got not much action because we've got about a gap of 2 seconds behind us and a gap of 3 seconds in front. We're going to fast forward the action until we get through to, I think it's Williams Giorgio in front of us battling with TG Tenka. They're going to start losing time. Maybe some sort of incident's going to happen as we go through this lap. And yeah, that was pretty much where a lot of cars were losing the traction on this 130R. They were making a lot of mistakes there, and that put us into the top 10, which was really good news for myself as we now start lap 8, and you can see up ahead it looks like Williams Giorgio is going for a move on TG10K. Is it going to be a clean one? Let's have a little look as they go through that corner. You just seen it looked like possible contact. I'm not too sure exactly what happened there, but TG10K runs wide, maybe with them tyres, just didn't have the grip to hold that outside line, and now he's going to have real dirty tyres in front of me as we go through the first sector where you really do need a lot of grip from. And with the tyres, the condition of my tyres, we're actually feeling quite good at this stage, considering we're coming towards the end of the race. But look at TG10K, really struggling with them tyres. His tyres will be starting to clean up a bit now, but he's really starting to struggle with rear traction. So obviously, maybe he pushed a little bit too hard, or maybe he had his brake balance not set the same as what we did. Maybe he had a bit more rear bias, which would have took a lot of rear life out of them tyres, which would have been good for the start of the race, but for the end it really wouldn't help you out as he gets on the dirt there, makes a mistake, and then clips the wall there, just about gets away without stopping him dead. And I'm going to go for the move on the inside after seeing that mistake and get myself ahead. You can see also in the bottom on the left hand side you got GTA TG coming through with a fresher set of tyres. Obviously he pitted lap 4, so his tyres are going to be in so much better condition, so that was really important for myself to get myself into P9 before Tijani got onto the back of myself, would have been putting me under a lot of pressure. So we've got 1 and a bit laps to go, and we've got TG10K behind us with tyres that look like he's really struggling on, and then GTA Tijani on much fresher tyres. So it's going to be a battle to the end. I expected going down this straight, I was pretty sure that Tijani might be able to get past Tenka, because I could see obviously Tenka was really struggling with them tyres, and you can see them going side by side. But obviously I go to the right hand side of the track because it makes more sense for me to, obviously that's the racing line anyway, but it makes more sense for me to give the slipstream to the car that's struggling on with the tyres, to try and hold up GTA Tijani to give myself a bit of cushion on the final lap. But although it was going to not really do too much, as you can see there, GTA Tijani makes a move in the final chicane and gets himself through into P10 just behind myself. As you see my car starting to lose a little bit of traction now, but we have looked after the rear tyres quite well now, so we're going to have to just use up pretty much all the life we've got left in these tyres on this final lap as we try and just break that slipstream on the final lap now, going into turn 1, just so we can't make a move into turn 1, trying to take a very tight line through here. I know that I haven't got the grip to match what Tijani will have on his tyres, so it's all about just looking after the defensive line and trying to make sure that when he's getting on the power, I'm on the apex, so that I'm trying to basically make sure that my car is always where he wants to be, really. As you can see, going tight on the apex again and then swinging it back over into the apex again, and really we had to really make sure I had to hook that corner up, and actually got on the power really well then. The rear started to go loose, just about held onto it, and just about got myself into a position to go through these 2 right hand corners with a reasonable line there, as GTA Tijani right behind us, putting me under a lot of pressure and really driving this really well so far on this final lap, considering the tyre wear, and we're driving extremely defensive. And again into the braking, having to take a very early braking and tight line through there, and just trying to make sure that he can't get on the power too early, as I think he just give us a little tap there, possibly where he's just got so much more grip from them rear tyres than what I have. We're going to have to stay pretty much middle of the track now, because we're going to go defensive on the left hand side to make sure that he can't throw it on the inside and get into that P9 position, because he's going to have so much more braking capability and traction all the way through this lap. But very clean racing here now all the way through this lap, both driving very well. I was really concentrating on just trying not to lose control of the rear on power, because them rear tyres, just look at the state of the rear tyres, they're starting to look very worn now as we go through to the 130R, and this is going to be extremely sketchy now, both side by side as we go through the 130R. I go all the way to the left, there's a tiny bit of contact, nothing massive. I did try and give him space. I think he actually, when we analysed it on the replay on the stream, he had a little bit of a twitch moment going into the corner, and the rear slightly went and then tapped into my car as we were on the curb. And one of them things, I think it was a racing incident, I gave him space, he went for the move. It was a bit risky, but we end up in P9, and I feel like I did a reasonably good defensive job there. Although I think Tijani, if he wouldn't have pitted, would have finished about 3 or 4 more places up the field. But the strategy wasn't decided by Tijani, so I think he had much more pace than me, but I still feel I did a good job in defending all the way through to the end of that race, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable race. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to be back with more of these videos throughout the week, and we're back starting the new FIA season in the manufacturers very soon. I'm going to release the video with the manufacturer that I'm going to decide. I have decided. I will let you know tomorrow in a video what manufacturer I'm going to go. You can have your let me know in the comment section if you think what manufacturer you think I'm going to go. I've decided I'm not going to give any hints away, but we'll see tomorrow when I release that video. Thanks again for watching, everyone.